For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and today we are going to press our luck talking about the biopic, The Luckiest Man in America. It tells the story of Michael Larson, who went on the game show Press Your Luck in the 1980s, ultimately kind of unraveling the system and the insanity that came as a result of said unraveling. Sometimes single location films can be very great, and sometimes they can be very terrible, and I'm happy to report that this one is the former rather than the latter. This film had me on the edge of my freaking seat almost nearly the entirety of this film. There was one point in this movie, and it's within the last 10 minutes, I kid you not, I literally thought that my heart was going to burst out of my chest from how anxious this movie made me. I feel like very few films have that effect on me. In recent years, I can think of Uncut Gems and last year's Saturday Night that had that type of effect on me, but I just think that that is the makings of a great film. I think it hits all of the marks that it needs to. The acting, I'll talk about, expand upon in just a few seconds, but the score, the writing, the cinematography here, just the pacing of this movie, I'm getting all worked up just thinking about talking about this movie, if that's any insight into the quality that we are talking about here. This is arguably one of the most fascinating stories to ever come out of the history of game shows for as long as they have existed in television format. I thought this was crazy the first time I heard this story of Michael Larson, and this movie just does his entire story and legacy complete justice. So I don't know too much about Michael Larson outside of the events that take place within this movie. So I don't know if he is a good guy or a bad guy, but I love how the movie kind of keeps you guessing on that fact the entirety up until literally the last second. I love the way this movie uses red herrings. It had me guessing literally the entire time. And typically with red herrings, there's such a plot device that you can see coming from a mile away. But here, I really believed everything they gave me. And I don't know if that just makes me gullible as a viewer, but I think it just speaks to the quality of both the acting and the writing here. I hinted at this earlier before I kind of got a little bit overstimulated, but the pacing in this movie is so brisk and it's so fast. It literally draws you to the edge of your seat. It wastes almost no time establishing the setup and kind of the mystery and the lore around Larson as a character, that by the time it just keeps drawing you closer and closer to the edge that you cannot help but hold on to every breath. And I think that comes from the commanding performance of Paul Walter Hauser in this movie. Now, up to this point, the majority of the roles that I have personally seen Hauser take on have always been kind of either secondary characters, or if he is in a drama, he's always kind of the comedic relief. So to kind of get to see him step into a more dramatic role, really see his range as an actor, I think really demonstrates just the talent that this guy has and how he is one of the most underappreciated actors working today. And I've already had enough people tell me that if I want to see Hauser's real range and performance and just kind of how intimidating he can be, to check out Blackbird. It's already on my list, so please do not come for me in the comments. But honestly, Hauser just has this way about him as Larson that he walks this line of both vulnerability but also determination and charisma, and it's such an interesting blend that I don't want to say I couldn't see anyone else who wrote it, but it made Larson such a grounded and complex character. And again, I think that is compliments to both the script as well as the performance. All the performances across the board just fire on all cylinders. Even bit parts like Walter Goggins or Macy Williams in this just have such a way of just really just kind of disappearing into their roles and just bringing out fantastic performances. Honestly, for me, Shamier Anderson is kind of the breakout performance here. Anderson, outside of Hauser, kind of has the most range to demonstrate in a performance here. It is complex, it's broken, but also it adds to the anxiety and the tension here. And him versus Hauser are the perfect nemesis that you never knew a story like this needed. And I think it's just the committed, beautifully complex and layered performances of both Hauser and Anderson that just makes these two performances stand out above any other performance here. But Anderson stands toe to toe, and this is the first time that I've ever seen him in anything, and I'm hoping this won't be the last. He was by far one of my favorite performances here. With that said, I am ready to run this one through our Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give The Luckiest Man in America a bold 4 out of 5, as this film does not press its luck whatsoever. It ends up being one of the best edge-of-your-seat thrillers you didn't know you needed. The performances from Paul Walter Hauser, as well as the breakout performance from Shamier Anderson, among the exceptional other performances here in a brisk, breakneck pace, makes this one of the most unforgettable, just absolutely insane thrillers that have come out of in recent memory, and I cannot recommend this movie enough. If you guys have seen The Luckiest Man in America, comment below and let us know what you thought. If you guys have seen either version of Press Your Luck, whether it is the classic version or the reboot version, share your memories as well down there below. Now, typically this is the point in the video where I would address themes of mental health woven throughout the course of this film, or very specific scenes or a specific arc, because that's what we do here at Victims and Villains. We try to create conversations around mental health, point people to the right directions if you happen to be new here. However, a lot of the mental health conversations that I want to address with this film happen to dig into spoiler territory, so I'm going to revisit this film upon its streaming release when it gets addressed later this year, or maybe even in a couple of weeks, to give people a little bit more eyes, a little bit more chance to experience this film, as well as to open and hopefully engage more people in the conversation of mental health surrounding Michael Larson and this entire movie. The Luckiest Man in America is now playing everywhere from IFC Films. In the show notes below, you guys will find links to check it out in your local listings, plus all of our stuff as well, social media, podcast network, more movie reviews like this, links to support us financially via our Patreon, as well as Paramount Plus, and that follow button. So until next time, remember to keep it classy and to keep it lucky. Have a great night.